This is Jaika, and welcome to Sensational, the season sister Soulcast. That's right, you're going to have some wonderful, amazing women here having an edifying conversation in a safe space, and prayerfully, you will be blessed by hearing it. Today, we are going to talk about single motherhood, the power of single motherhood, and I have some powerful, amazing women who have experienced single motherhood today, and they are going to just shed some light on some things and hopefully leave some good things with you. And I'm pretty confident that they will because they have definitely inspired me. I am not a mother. I've assisted mothering hundreds, but I am not a mother. But when I have seen women like these that are gathered here today, I have been so inspired and proud and amazed to see how they were able to carry out that call of being single mom. I just applaud them and just celebrate them tonight and thank them for being here. They do have nicknames for anonymity, or should I say privacy. Nobody has anything to hide. We just want to be private. All right. So get involved, listen up. If you comment, please make sure that your comments are respectful. And if you have questions, feel free to drop them down there. If you have your own single mother story, whether it was your mother who was a single mother or if you've experienced single motherhood, please feel free to share it in the comments. You never know who you're inspiring. All right, we're going to get down to it. All right, we have some basic questions. Now, as we begin, if you ladies, if you don't mind, whatever makes you comfortable, whatever makes you feel safe, to say how you became a single mother before you get into your answer. Okay. Now, first and foremost, how did you do it? Let's get into it. Some routines, some stories. How did you carry that out? How did you make it happen? How did you make it work every day? So, if you could choose a time in your child's life, all of these wonderful mothers have raised children to adulthood, because remember, we're seasoned sisters here, okay? So, if you could pick a time that stands out where you had to make it work, and just let us know what those days looked like. Who would care to take that one? You may raise your hand, unmute. All right.
Hi, this is Joey Mom. Honestly, I'm still trying to make it work. I don't know if there's a specific time. I know I can remember when I felt the most alone. I had just left my baby daddy. I was renting a room in basically a crack house. Fortunately, I was not on crack, but you get the ambience of the place. And it was me and my daughter in a twin bed. And I just remember looking at her sleeping like she felt so safe. And I've never felt so alone in my life. And I cried myself to sleep. And I think I felt like that for a couple of days. And then one day she just looked at me and she said, Mommy, I love you. And it was like nothing else mattered. I hope that answers your question. Just knowing that she loved me and she was depending on me. I knew I had to make things. How does it go? I had to make $1 out of 15 cents, make bread where there was no wheat flour and stuff. She that looking in that face and that trust made me have to make it work.
Wow. Now you answered so many questions with that. And just to sit in awe for a second that she felt safe and she felt loved. Didn't matter what was going on, but she felt safe and felt loved, and you were able to see that. Oh, how encouraging. Thank you so much, Joy Mama. Would anybody else like to take that question? All right, I'll move on. So, from Joey Mama, I heard what helped her to keep going on. So, from there, I'm going to ask, what is your life philosophy or motherhood philosophy or belief that kept you going when things got tough? Who would like to share that? Pretty lady, do you have a life philosophy
But
that helped? You're being applauded, Joy Mama. I'm sorry,
well,
military mama. Yeah.
yeah, I was ready to say, I had a lot of family that did help me along the way. Um, I think my mom died when my second child was born, and that's when it really got kind of hard for me. But I just thank God for my family. Even times your mom helped. You guys may not know about that, but there have even been times when I've even called your mom and she has helped financially. So, but you know what? I cannot remember a time raising my children where it just was not a struggle for me. And I feel like, that I have pretty much struggled all the way through, but thank God my children are grown, they're doing well, they're productive citizens in society. But I really cannot remember a time, honestly, that I did not struggle. I don't even know how I made it through, but
Mm.
but the grace of God, but I made it through. Sometimes, even now at 62 years old, sometimes I think back and I just feel like, thank you, Jesus. There have been times, even at 62, that I have shedded a tear or two when I think about how my life was and how I still made it, and how now at 62 years old, I am retired from a job. You know, I purchased my own condo all on my own. I did this. So I could say it kind of really made me strong in a way, you know, but it was just a time in my life where honestly, it was just hell. I can really say it was just hell. And the men that I dealt with along the way, they wasn't worth a damn. I'm sorry, guys, if, cursing offended anyone, but they just really wasn't worth much. But I thank God for my family. I really do. My family. That was they were my rock, my family. It was my family. But I tell you, man, it was rough. It was rough. Being a single mom, it's rough.
So
It's
when you
rough.
say it was rough, are you speaking day-to-day
But
routines? Are you speaking finances? Are you speaking emotionally? What was
all
rough?
of it, all of it. I worried about my children getting out here on drugs and all that, and I thank God I never experienced that with them. They never resorted to drugs or alcohol or anything like that. They never became a victim of any of that stuff. And I don't know how, because we were in that environment,
Mm.
you know. We were in that environment. So it all was a struggle. I worried so much about my kids, but I knew I had to let them go and experience life, because as teenagers, they wanted to go out to this party and that party. And I worried so much about them, girl. There have been plenty of nights I would never even go to sleep until I heard them put the key in the door.
Yeah.
It was rough. It was rough. It was just a rough time, girl. It was just a rough time. It really was. I'm telling you. But I just thank God that I made it through. And like I said, with the help of family, and my friends couldn't help. They were all in the same predicament, pretty much.
Okay.
You know. So yeah,
Wow.
it it definitely is a story to tell. Yeah, yeah,
Well, I just
definitely.
thank you for your honesty and just your openness and your vulnerability about that. I just so value you all. I
Yeah,
so value you all. And I think we know why it didn't happen. You know, you were working hard for it not to happen, for them getting in trouble and drugs and things like that. So, yes, we are grateful for that. Yeah.
yeah. Because
Um,
I probably would have been one of them mothers that somebody probably would have been. I don't even know how I would have dealt with with any of my children being any type of an addict, to be honest with you, because I probably would have been beating the shit out of them more than anything. I mean, because I wouldn't have known what else to do.
And maybe they knew that. They were like, you know what? I don't even want that smoke. I don't even want that
Right.
smoke from mom. Like, not even worth it, bro.
No, I'm
Y'all go ahead.
scared. I'm scared of my mother. That's what they've been. No, I'm scared of my mama.
I know I was scared of mine.
Right.
Hey, you put that fear in there. And that,
Yeah.
hey, And I'm grateful and I'm glad you mentioned it, you have boys, correct?
Two boys and one daughter. But you know what? And one thing I did learn along the way is that you do have to put fear in your children. You have to let them think that you're absolutely crazy. You really do. And that way, they really won't rear to the left too much. Yeah, you got to let them think you're crazy. You got to put a little bit of fear in them. You got to be like, no, because my mother, you got to let them think like that. You know? Yeah.
Yeah, I have to agree with military mom that about that about the you definitely have to put the fear in them. But for me, I I had an example because my mom was a single parent at because my parents divorced, and so I was the oldest, and my parents divorced around when I was 6. So I had an example. I didn't want
Mm.
to repeat that, but it had happened. And I only have one daughter. She's 29 now, and I'm like a military mom. I'm glad that she's not, I mean, she is thriving. I mean, she is like an amazing person, but you worry, you like you don't want them, I like my mom always said, hey, they're not on drugs, they're not in jail, they're productive citizens. And what helped me to answer your question, Jaiko, what helped me was God has always and will always be the center of my life. And I know that sounds like a cliche, but it's not. I was always in church. And I did question my faith sometimes because I wanted the picket fence, the 2 kids, the everything, and I was real successful in every aspect of my life, and I'm like, but I did expect to be a single parent for a time, and I just always, but I'm a survivor. I'm a survivor and everything, and I taught my daughter how to do that. And self-sufficient. I just said, God, please let me just stay alive to see her graduate from high school. Then after that, then I said, Lord, please let me see her graduate from college. That happened. You know, things like that. But you just take you take it day by day. I
Mm-hmm.
will never forget when in because I always lived away from my family, so I'd never had family help. And so it was just always me and her against the world. And then but I will never forget when she was in 5th grade, a boy called her nigger. And I swear to God, I thought I was gonna get a case. But you have to show them things, and then it's like, okay, you want an iPhone? Okay, you need to go and work. So she babysat because and I always kept her very active in things, cheerleading, dance. I always kept her busy so she didn't get distracted, if you know what I mean. Now, she did, of course, have some boy that I wish she never met, but that in high school, but it of course ended, which I was thank the Lord because he was bad news. But my point I'm trying to say is I just had God's center of my life, and that's what helped me through. And
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody experiences it uh differently, but I think being a single, it makes you stronger. I've always had to fight for everything. So I've always been, um, oh, you talk too wide, or you're not, or you're too light, or you're too dark, or so I've always had to and I was in computers, and so I was all back then because I'm 60. So back then I was only black girl in that field before it became what it is now. And so I've always had to be better. So I just taught my daughter a closed mouth never gets fed. Okay. And also what my dad told me was, you know, sweetie, you know what? You know how to help the poor, don't be one.
Okay, so always work. I worked when I was 15 until I just retired at 60. So I've acquired everything I've acquired on my own. And so you just show them what, I mean, because life is hard. But if you have family and friends or whatever your source of inspiration, encouragement. I mean, don't get me, it wasn't all roses. I mean, parenting, but I love being a mother. That's my best job. So I love being a mother, but it's not easy. A parent is not easy being a parent. But the thing about it is, as long as they're productive, I just wanted her to be a productive citizen. And and as she wasn't in jail, she wasn't on drugs, she wasn't, a prostitute out doing this. So I'm happy. God has been with me, and God to this day, right now, she's 29, and she's visiting her family in Chicago. I tell her relationships are important more than material things and things. Your relationships with people are important. And so I think she's had God center of her life. So that's what I'm saying. God has been the center of my life, and that's what helped me through.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Wow. So much inspiration there. Yes, Miss Esquire, you may unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
So I have one child, she's 31, and I will tell you truly the only way I got through it was with family and friends, period. Hands down. I mean, I'm tearing up, as you can hear, but it was not something I wanted to do. I don't believe in being a single mother. It's not something I wanted to do. But because I had my mom, I got pregnant. I was silly. Anybody that knows me, I'm really silly. I actually told my family that I had got accepted to law school in Mexico because I was embarrassed, that I'm the eldest child and I'm going to law school. I didn't want anybody to know. I actually went to a shelter for pregnant women because I was embarrassed. But because my mom was such a good mom, she told me to come back and finish up because I wanted to be a lawyer. But I didn't think I was going to be a lawyer because everyone around me was telling me that if you're pregnant out of wedlock, the only thing you can hope to do is be on government assistance. And so that's what I thought. But my mom was like, no, bring your hind parts back here and pick up where you finish. And so because I had that mindset, I'm a lawyer now, but because I had that mindset, I know every job in a law firm. I did every job: legal assistant, legal receptionist, investigator, paralegal, and now I'm a lawyer. I have my own firm. I've been doing this for 20 years. But honestly, this would have never happened without family and friends. Never. But it's interesting that even though I never desired to be a single mother, I didn't have any fears. I think when my mom told me to come home, and like it again, anybody that knows me, I'm not domestic. Well, I am now, but at the time I was not domesticated. I'd rather be in a courtroom or boardroom than the kitchen. I'm not doing anybody's hair. So my sister did her hair. I don't know if I can name names, but even when I sat for the bar, my daughter was not with me. So I could have did it without family. Now, when she got a teenager, she started to smell herself and it got bad. I had to send her high parts to boarding school because dad was not involved. He didn't really want to be involved. But even after that, when it was time for her to go to college, she became even problematic. But I never worried because my family and my friends, that's what got me through this. I'm telling you. Now, she is really pretty. She's bad to the bone. If you were to see us, you would think we like the Parkers on TV. Like we're like It looks like we're best friends, really. We've always had a really good relationship, but I could not have done it with our family and my friends. I really could not have. Um, I don't know why I'm tearing up, but I can't stand tearing up. But I wish I knew that I would have, because I want to answer this question because I don't like it. But at the same time, it was truly family and friends that helped me through. And I think it's because I had that support. I never feared, even when her life looked like it was going down the drain. I think it was the family and friends and just prayer. And now, like I said, I mean, I can't tell you how proud I'm just. She's like, I wouldn't say she's my best friend because I don't really want to be best friend with my daughter, but outside of that, she would be my best friend, and her daughter would be my second best friend. But it was truly family and friends that got me through. And the other thing that was crazy, because despite how much I struggled, because I was going to college, I had my daughter in college, and again, to me, it was embarrassing because I'm a pregnant child, female. I'm not married, and I'm not a lawyer, which was my plan in life. I had a 10-year plan. And the fact that none of this is right, I remember when I was on campus, there was this guy that I thought was so totally dreamy. He saw me pushing a baby cart. I was so embarrassed. So, and all the stuff that I did to get through college, to get through law school, and my daughter, she wanted so badly to be with her dad, and he could care less. And the man lived on campus. He wasn't even a student on campus, but he lived on campus. But one of the reasons why she went down a spiral was because she was reaching out to him, because she wanted to be a daddy's girl. But even with that, even with all of that, I mean, it was because of family and friends. So, did I answer the question or more?
I would say more. I don't even remember what the question was.
And I apologize.
No, I
I didn't
think it
think I
is.
would be doing this, but geez,
No, and
God,
sometimes we just are living and doing what we have to do and don't even get an opportunity to stop and really reflect and just breathe and say, whew, I went through all that. I
yeah,
persisted through all of that. And then the emotions just come up. They
yeah,
just come up. So, I mean, thank you for sharing that and just having such a vulnerable moment. And we are just so proud of you, Ms. Esquire, for getting through all of those things. So proud of you. I mean, there was so much in what you said. And
Can
I
I say
think
something real quick?
absolutely. Who's that? I want to,
This this is Joey mom.
okay.
Um,
Uh-huh.
I I think that was something lacking in the beginning of my motherhood. I'd lost my spiritual connection to my God. And if you have that, it eases a lot of burdens. So I'm very happy for those of you who had that from the beginning. It took me a while to redevelop my connection. And I heard you also say you don't want to say your daughter's your best friend. I get that, but what I think you're expressing is your closeness to her. And when you cross the line from parent to friend, sometimes it can get blurred, but that closeness, you don't have to define it. It just
Mm.
is. And
yeah,
there's nothing better than being a mother to a daughter.
yeah.
Wow. Thank you for that, Joey Mama. Thank you so much for that. Oh my gosh.
Can I say something?
Absolutely. Come on through,
You know what
military
I
mama.
found the hardest thing for me to accept
Who's that?
was once my children were grown, and then here come dad. What do you want at this point in time? The job is done.
Girl, say it again, military mama. Okay.
What do you want?
Ditto.
I,
Ditto.
I don't even say the man, the father. I'm like, dude, at this point, you're just the dude. You're the dude. The job is done. Get away from here. You
And
know,
how
that's
did you all and to so how do you all deal with that? Now we heard Miss Esquire say she's dealing with all these things. She's raising this child, going through all these ebbs and flows of life, but the child is looking for her father. She wants to be daddy's girl. You're saying, the dad comes back at whatever time. How do you have these discussions with your child as a child? I know they're
what me
adults
tell.
now. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let me tell you, and this is, and I know I probably was wrong, but at that point in time, I was pissed because let me tell you something. And I told my children the truth. Dude wasn't here. Dude didn't care if you had a coat on your back. Dude didn't care if you had shoes on your feet. Dude didn't care if you were fed. I told them the truth. And that was, and I let them make their own decision. But I was not going to allow any of my children to think that their fathers were saints when they did not do a thing. No. And maybe I should not have, but that's how I dealt with that, to be honest with you. I was not going
No, you
to,
were right,
yeah,
military mom. The truth is very important. Now, you
yeah.
have to be
Right.
honest, and everybody's timing is different when they have to hear it. But because some of them can handle it when they're little. But if you're not doing no child support, no this, no nothing, no, I'm letting you know this is how it was and this is how it is. So that's
Mm-hmm.
fine. If you want a relationship with your parents, that's fine. But I'm just letting you know this is the thing. This is what it is. But they know.
Yeah, they know.
You
And
don't have to.
they
They come to
yes,
you and ask. They come
Yep.
to you and
and,
ask.
and
That's the thing.
And you
when
know what?
when they
And
come
and
when they try to come back into their lives, they're gonna
mm-hmm.
disappear again. So you just
Yep.
let them be them. And it they I don't want to say what is it, a tiger doesn't change his spots, but if that was the relationship then, it's gonna be fun for a couple of weeks, maybe even a year or so, but then something's gonna happen. They're not gonna show up, or they're gonna say they're gonna do this and it's not gonna get done. And the children, they know more than we realize. At least my
Absolutely.
daughter tells me that all the time. She was like, when I was 10, I knew. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
just let them come back. Hey, go for it. And then the truth will win out.
Yeah. And even with my grandchildren, because my daughter is a single mom and her oldest son is 18 years old now. And his father just came back into his life because he's been in and out of jail all his life. And like my grandson don't even care. My daughter wants him to talk to his father, wants him to have a relationship. I told her, she and I got into a little disagreement because I told her to leave him alone. I said, because for the simple reason that he knows that he wasn't around. He know who took care of him. Me and you. That's who took care of him. We were the only two people whom he had and still have, you know. So no, leave him alone. He don't even care to be bothered with his dad. And so, she and I got into this was just about a week ago, guys. No, I'm gonna say about 2 weeks ago. We just, got into a little disagreement. Leave him alone. If he don't care about him, let him not care. Because in his mind, his father didn't care about him because he really didn't, did he? Who was buying him stuff? Me and you.
Yeah.
Come on now. Sometimes leave these kids, let them be. Girl, I'm gonna tell you, I could go. This could be, girl. It's too much. Now I'm getting mad. Look,
It's going. Some things are going to come up. I have a
yeah.
raised hand from Miss Esquire. Miss Esquire, did
Oh,
you
I
want to
was
add?
gonna say that I agree with him. Like I said before, my daughter, it was always comparing her shiftless dad, and I support fathers and men in life, even if you are not in, if you're not a couple, I support it because I think children deserve both parents. But honestly, if you're shiftless and you are more of a problem than you are anything, you need to, like military mom say, go away, because you become more a problem than you create harm to these children. And I just know, I remember I can't remember how old she was. She was, I think she was already out of high school, and she was still craving for this man who anything else but her was more important. And I just remember getting really, really upset. And I had family in my house, and I remember they was like, she's gonna realize real soon who is the one that's there. And that is exactly what happened. That doesn't change that she doesn't love him, but she recognized who was there. Just like everyone else has said, she knows who was there, who was the one that was taking it. And then children generally, at some point, they will respond accordingly. You know what I mean? So yeah, I just think, like, if there is anyone that's listening, children know we sometimes we take children for granted, but they're a lot more smarter than we give them credit for. And they can observe, like, who was there fixing my food, who was there at the PTA, who was there picking me up. Children do recognize that. And like, I can't remember which other mom was saying it, but I don't necessarily agree with bashing a father, but I definitely do agree with telling the truth, because somehow it becomes a bad thing when mothers have an opinion that's not so favorable and they tell their children. Somehow that's considered bad. But most people don't consider that as a single mother, we are doing the job of two parents. And in addition to that, we're an accountant, we're a coach, we're a cook, we're a counselor. We're doing all this stuff, and we sometimes forget who we are. And nobody gives us credit for that. So sometimes, just for you to breathe, tell the freaking truth. You know what I mean? Your dad, he ain't here, and he don't want to be here. And you can do it tastefully without breaking the child's soul or spirit or talking terribly down to him. But I think we need to give ourselves grace as well as parents, but also recognize that children do need both parents, but sometimes they don't need both parents if that parent is more harmful than anything.
Wow. That's an excellent point. That's a very strong point. It's a lot to consider, and it's got to be difficult because
Yes,
at
and
a
I
certain point, I'm
agree. I
sorry,
agree. I don't think
where are
You
we?
should bash any parent, mother or father. And but I do think that if you don't forgive, you got to forgive. And even when they're wrong, you got to forgive, because it's not for them, it's for you. I mean, you
And
do.
yeah,
You
of
just
course.
do. And yeah, because God is going to see you through. God will never leave you or forsake you.
So, and of course, there's a fine line between telling the truth or not concealing the truth and then bashing.
Yes, of
You know what I'm
course.
saying? Your father ain't, and
Right.
then
Yeah.
you're not, you what you want to see him for? Now, of course, that would be bashing, but to just tell the truth, I'm sorry, I'm not going to wait to make arrangements for this weekend because baby, your father's not going to come. Yeah,
Exactly.
there's that.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because when they
There's a
don't show
difference.
up, the child knows that they don't show up.
Yeah.
The child knows. You don't have to say nothing. They're hurt already.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can be tasteful and tactful and appropriate, especially depending on the child's age, and what you think that child can do. For instance, I know there were some time because we had relocated, and I would know my daughter's dad would say all the time he's taking a flight to come see her, and she was just so excited, just thrilled to pieces. And we, in the back of my mind, like this, I'm not saying anything, but she's so excited. My dad's coming to town. We get to the airport. This man didn't even get on the flight. Oh yeah, yeah. And that happened at least twice. And then when he would come, he said he's going to stay because he thought that he was staying with me. That's not happening. That's another thing. But then he would stay with some folks, and then he goes out to a bar the day before he's to come see her. And he's promised her a shopping spree, but somehow every single time he visited her, he he left his wallet at the bar every single time. And so the only thing they can do at the shopping mall is maybe get a donut and window shop. And at some point I remember having to tell her, it's like, you know, how many times do you think that he's going to leave his wallet? And you have to be tactful about it. So you don't have to say, okay, he's a lying piece of beep beep beep. You don't have to say that. But I do think when the child, at least in my case, when you're doing all that stuff, sometimes, sometimes children need to be made aware, because if they keep putting hope into nothing, sometimes it can be hurtful if you don't kind of step in as their parents, because you really have to consider what's in that child's best interest. I have seen cases where dads have come into a child's life and left the child, and the child just turned out really bad because there's another form of abandonment all over again. So we have to walk a very thin line and how to do that. And a lot of kids, in my opinion, that have these parents that abandon, men or women, a lot of times they end up having to have counseling, because it is a form of abandonment. It really
Absolutely.
is.
Absolutely. So many of these children, they may have trauma, they may have attachment issues. So not only are you raising a child alone, you're raising a child alone who now has insecure attachment, who has trauma, and these missing pieces, or an identity crisis. I'm not good enough for my own dad. I'm not good enough for my own mom. I'm longing for this other piece that's missing. There's a lot there.
Yeah.
So you're not even just dealing with a child who got off to a fair start.
Yeah.
You're working with a child who's really dealing with a lot of things internally. So let's steer this ship back around now to yourself. We heard Military Mama talk about how it was just always a struggle. We're hearing about your career goals and things like that. How did you not lose you? Or do you felt like there was ever a time where you actually did lose yourself?
You
Yeah,
While
talking to me?
I did. I know I lost myself because all of my energy went on my children, or my three kids, and it. Let me see. What am I trying to say? Honestly, I really did lose sight of myself, my goals. I ended up on a job being a caseworker for the state of Maryland that I really didn't even want to do. But because I had children to take care of and had to take care of the bills, I remember my mother one time said, "You better choose your career before your career choose you." And I didn't know what she was talking
mm,
about then. But I later understood what she was talking about, because my career chose me because I took that job. I had to stay in that job because I had three children to raise, and bills to pay. So, it's always, like I said in the beginning, it has always been kind of a struggle, because I ended up losing myself and just doing everything that I needed to do to take care of those children and raise them kids. I remember the one time, the my second marriage, I was so involved in raising my children properly and being a wife, so when we divorced, I didn't have anybody. I mean, like, I because my life revolved around them, and being a mother and being a wife, my life revolved around that. So when the children were grown and they left the house, and me and my second husband divorced, I didn't have a life at all because I had given it all to them. And if I
mm,
remember, if it one day, my girlfriend Darlene, who I grew up with down 20, down this place called 20. You may not remember Jaiko. Anyway, if it was had not been for her coming to get me out of the house, I don't know where I would have been. But that girl would come
mm,
to the house faithfully every day. And she would come on, Stace, come on, let's go, let's go, let's go. And we just wouldn't even go anywhere, do it and do anything. She introduced me to happy hours. That's what she did. So, but it was just a way of getting me out of the house, because I lost myself. I lost myself. And if it had not been for her, who knows where I would have been, because I was just sitting at home every evening, twiddling my thumbs, doing nothing, because my children were gone on with their life. The man was whoever, gone with whomever and wherever. And I was alone. I found myself actually alone for the first time in my life. Yeah.
mm.
Yeah, I
You're
didn't have a
hearing
life.
that.
Yeah, so
We-
I will encourage anyone to, don't give your life, to your spouse and your children. Have a life of your own. even if you do have them, of course, take care of your wifely duties and your motherly duties or whatever, but you still have to spend, some quality time with your friends and stuff like that, because I didn't do that. I didn't do that. Between going
Get
to
to
work.
know who you are. I agree with you, military mom.
Yeah.
Know who you are.
Yeah.
Learn you.
Yeah.
Learn you.
Yeah.
Love you. Love you.
And that's
Yeah.
something, and just spending time with your friends. And that's something I think we take advantage, well, not take advantage of, that we take for granted. It's
Hmm.
really important. It's really important. Okay, we've had a raised hand here from Ms. Esquire. If anyone else has a raised hand and I'm not seeing it, feel free to unmute. But I do see that Ms. Esquire was waiting. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I never knew who I was, honestly, until 38, because I knew I wanted to be a lawyer, but I also had all these images of what a woman is supposed to be, because I grew up in a very strict environment. And that was the reason why being pregnant and unmarried was so embarrassing, because this was not the way I was raised. But it wasn't until I was 38 that I was like, you know what? It's like a light bulb click. Like, I'm doing all this crap for everybody. And just like, I think, military mom, I remember I would come home after work, taking my daughter here, taking her there. She was in every activity. I'm working my hard parts off trying to get stuff done. And I remember on a Friday night, I would just sit in front of the TV and eat ice cream. And I remember one time I walked into Walmart and I had on, for what it's worth, I've been the same size for a while. I've never really changed in terms of what I look like. But I went into Walmart and walked past the mirror and did not recognize myself. I didn't know who that was in the mirror. I mean, the face, the clothes. I was like, who is that person? And like, I think again, military mom. My girlfriend, one of my girlfriends, like, we are leaving. Get up, get out. She created a profile on a dating app or something like that. She's like, you got to go. But one of the things I would tell single mothers, and I actually told my neighbor right before we got started. She I don't think she's a single mom, but they're co-parent, I think. She has an opportunity to go to Jamaica in February, just for like 3 or 4 days. And I was like, you must go, because your children will appreciate you, because you'll be a better version of you if you take care of yourself. And so at 38, my daughter was, I don't know how old she was, but she was old enough to I didn't need to be around her all the time. And again, I always had family and friends to help me. That's truly how I got through this. But I started to start taking care of me. I started getting my hair done, my nail done. Sometimes I just want to go to the movies by myself. And I think it's really important that we do not lose ourselves as parents, because it's so very easy to do so, because we tend to take care of those that are in need because we think we are invincible. There's this saying, the strong Black woman. It can be good or bad. And oftentimes what we try to do as Black women is to prove that we are strong Black women. And that's unfortunate why a lot of us, or well, I would say not us, that's why several people use that term in a negative way. It's a positive way, but sometimes we have to understand that we can't do it all. And my motto is that I'm a rose and I need to be touched and taken care of. I need to be caressed. I might be independent, but still a lady at the end of the day. So
Yes,
that would be
ma'am.
my suggestion and kind of things I would tell people that may be a single parent. Don't forget who you are first.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
You
and
know
that
what? You know
strong
what?
Black woman. I'm sorry, the strong Black woman piece.
Mm.
It's like she'll be all right. She
Exactly.
doesn't need care.
Exactly.
She doesn't need to be seen after. She'll be all right. She's got it. She's got it. But when you have that attitude, it's like, well, people can continually leave things on you, not lift it off
Exactly.
you, not consider you, not ask how you feel, not allow you to be soft, not allow you to be vulnerable. And it really can be problematic. That's where it goes negative.
Let me tell
She's
you,
Yeah.
strong.
I
Yeah.
have
Big,
there was a
big.
time, something that was so simple you would not believe it, but I was in my house, and this is one of the times where my daughter's dad had came down to visit her, and I think I had to do something with the curtains, right? And I don't know why, but he was nice and he did the curtains. You would not believe how relieved I was that I didn't have to reach up there and fix the curtains. And then, because I guess again he was trying to be nice, he went and fixed dinner. Just those small things made such a big deal, because when you are so used to doing it all, it's you forget because you're so accustomed to doing it all. But just that small little stuff like that made me realize you cannot do it all, and it's okay to say, you know what, I'm taking the time out. And like I said, that's something, if there's anything I can tell anyone else, you cannot do it all. Don't try to.
I know
You're
that's
going.
right.
Yeah, it
Now,
is
did
hard,
you
but
all? I'm
you
sorry. Real quick question: did you all date while you were raising your children? I know some mothers are
mhm.
like, "Oh, I'm not gonna date." Some are
Mhm.
like, "Oh, I gotta live. I'm gonna date." So I know you're about to speak military mama. So with whatever you were about to say, if you could add that in there, did you date?
Okay. I did date during that time. I, came across a couple of guys that were interested in me and I was interested in them as well. But yes, I did date, but they all turned out not to be the right guy, of course. But this is what I wanted to say that really kind of was crazy for me when I was raising my children and I had a close rein on them, and I had control of everything. It was good. It was okay. Everybody was in the house at a certain time and everything. But as soon as those kids became teenagers, I started suffering from anxiety and everything. The doctor had to put me on Ativan to help me to sleep, and then had to put me on Zoloft. It was just crazy because then I realized I didn't have control anymore.
Mm,
It was almost like when I was losing the control of them, I started suffering from anxiety really bad. Yeah, that was
wow.
crazy. That was a wild time in my life, and it was supposed to have gotten better because they were getting older, but it didn't. Because it's almost like once they get out there and start doing their own thing, you worry about them even more. Yeah,
Wow.
it was out of control there for a minute. But anyway,
But
all right,
it
I'm gonna
speaks to the
sign off.
level of pressure you had. It speaks to the
Yes,
level of pressure you were under and
girl.
how much they were on your mind, and that
Yeah,
you were when you're shouldering it by yourself. It's like you're the one. Like
yeah,
who else is
yeah.
going to help if anything goes wrong? It's just me. So that's just
Hmm.
a lot of pressure to
It
shoulder.
was. It was.
Yeah.
But yeah, I dated some guys, but it wasn't good. But I did date along the way. Yeah.
Now, how long before you all uh introduced them to your child, or did you?
The only ones I introduced two of them to my children, just two of them, but I think it probably was in like about a 3-month period or something like that. I introduced it,
Okay.
which was really too soon. It's too soon.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. 3 months is too soon, but because you still kind of like in that honeymoon phase where you still really like one another. But then by the time like a couple of years was up, it was over. So I guess it's just trial and error. You just have to see what works best for you. You know. But yeah, I don't. I introduced them, within about a 3-month period. That was really too soon. Yeah.
Jacob,
Okay.
I did not date, which I think was a mistake. So, for women who become single parents and maybe grew up in kind of a religious strict background or something like that, or whatever your mind is, I part of the reason why I didn't date, because I was like, I didn't want to have these uncles around her, and I didn't want there to be a risk of something improper and illegal happening to my baby girl. So in my mind, and then I remember hearing a lot of the elders saying, you can't be both. I kept hearing that you can't be a career woman and a mother. And part of my mind was, I'm gonna do this no matter what. Y'all can kick rocks. But in that same premise, my biggest thing is like I have to create this legacy as a lawyer, and I have to make sure I raise my baby properly, and that nothing's gonna get in there. And then because I thought that I was not gonna be, reach that goal, I was just like focused, like focus. So the whole idea of having dates or anything like that, it never really dawned on me until, like I said, my girlfriend's like, get your high parts off the stove, let's go. But I think that was a mistake because you cannot lose yourself in building your career. You cannot lose yourself and taking care of your child. You cannot do it. And while you maybe grow up a certain way, you may have certain religious or beliefs that you grew up. You have to learn what is your belief, not what you necessarily are born with. And so, like
Mm,
at 38, that
yeah.
was the first time I was like, who am I? you know, and what
Mhm.
do I want to do? And what am I happy with? And that's when I really realized all this crap that I've been doing is just not who I am. I've been doing this because this is what's appropriate and this is what's proper. I don't necessarily have any regrets, but if I had to do it over again, I would have dated because
Okay.
that way my child could have seen love, black love. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
I may have missed out on some great stuff and vice versa. So
Wow. Wow. Thank you for that.
yeah.
Anybody else who hasn't responded to that? Did you date? Did you introduce your child to your love interests? And I apologize if I don't see your hand raised, but I don't see any other hands raised. But I will move on. All right. So I would ask, what have you done over time, and what do you do now just for self-care? I heard a little bit of that. I heard talking to friends. What are some things that you did or that you have now implemented that helps you just to look after you more? What is your thing? Has
Mm.
anybody done that?
Traveling.
Traveling.
Yes.
Okay.
International travel.
Yes. Excellent. Thank you. Because we got grown kids now. So what are we doing? How are we now pouring back into ourselves?
Hmm. That's a good question. Do you ever really pour back into yourself?
Not a bad idea. And if you haven't come across that thing yet, what would you like to do more of? That makes you
I
feel
would like
like
to
you feel
travel.
replenished.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Would
really
like to
would. I would like
travel.
to travel. I would. Yep. I really would. I would love to travel, go to different countries and see some different cultures, see how people how the other half live. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, we're gonna hold you to it. We're gonna, hey, let's get some trips in there. Okay,
Yeah.
yes, we have Lady T. Yes, Lady T, please unmute.
Hey there. Um, I think what comes up for me about self-care is stuff that I wish people had told me back then, because I have one child, a son who's an adult, and people didn't talk about it that much back then. My son is is a bit older now. He's older than what I've heard so far in terms of people's ages. But I think that I would see self-care differently from the way that it was talked about a lot back then, and then the way it's talked about most times now is I would I would fold more things that one would do in community, things that you would do with family and friends. I I wish I knew then what I know now about how that's also self-care and how times being with family and friends and making those as conscious decisions as opposed to, like having lost my parents. There are times when I look at pictures of things or they were events where people were, and even if my son was there, I wasn't there because I was working. And that's something that happens a lot. Like I didn't even know I was a single parent for a long time because I was married at first to my son's husband, and then we broke up when he was about 6 years old. And it was years after that where somebody actually, a coworker actually told me that I was a single parent. And I was like, what? I never even thought about it years later. And and I realized how many times, he would go on trips with family or friends or school trips or whatever. And I even said to him one time, it's like, how come you didn't go with us to whatever it was, some family trip? And I was like, because I was working to pay for you to go. And that was
Yeah.
real. And for a lot of single parents, especially single moms, you're working. You're working and you're concerned and you're struggling and you really feel like, and in some cases, even today, I feel like, there are times when you don't really win, if you could say it like that, where, you know, excuse the old expression, but sometimes you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. And
Mm-hmm.
and a dear friend said to me once, we're all just doing the best that we can with what we have in any moment. You don't know how things are going to turn out. Things are not the way I would have wanted my son's life to look right now. He's still, I think, at his core, the wonderful person that I wanted and always believed he would be. But I'm sure we both wish that his life looked different. And I've spent a lot of time thinking, oh my God, like I was constantly working so that he would have many more opportunities than I had, or many more options, or you know, much more flexibility and freedom. And a lot of it he did have, but I'm like, I worked so hard for you to have more, for things to be different. I didn't know. And so if if there's anything that I could say about that, especially to somebody who is a single mother right now, I would wrap it up by saying that spending time with family and friends, not just because you need them to help you get by, because you absolutely do, but that's not all that's happening. It is a way that your cup is being filled. It is a way that you are maintaining community and quite frankly, your mental health. And there are times when no matter how hard you're working, and no matter how much money you make or don't, it's not going to replace the time when you could have been with your family members and friends
Yeah.
when when you all were just together.
Mm-hmm.
And it helps you sometimes think that, because it's something that I never really thought about, is that I actually had value to my child besides being the person who paid for everything.
Mm.
It's just time spent with me may have had more value than I ever gave it. But it's because I was too busy knowing, hey, the bills got to be paid.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Somebody's got to do it. Because like you all said, there were years where we didn't know where his father was or what he was doing or whatever. And of course, they get along great now as an adult. And I look back and it's kind of like, what? You know, he went to college. My son went to college and graduated from college, and uh, and graduated from college with no debt. I made sure of that. And it wasn't until
Oh.
several years after that where I read an article that said that just because of the way things work in terms of economics, personal economics, you should have been putting into your retirement plan instead of paying for your child's college. And it was this whole
Oh.
explanation. I was like, what? No. I went through all this stuff, you know. But again, and I don't mean to run on and on about this, but
Oh,
I
good,
just want
good.
single moms to know that yes, the money is important, but you cannot buy time, and that you are of value beyond your ability to keep the roof over the head, which Joey Mama's story talked about. They're basically in a shelter on a twin mattress, and her daughter felt safe and loved because she was with her.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's the bottom line a lot of times, and that you are, no matter what's happening with you, you are of value. And you can't see it. I love how Ms. Esquire was like, she started to see it when she was 38. I wish I had started to really understand mine when I was 38. I'm older than that now. You know. However, I'm so grateful to God, the ancestors, to everyone that I've lived long enough to realize that yes, I am of value just as I am. I could be sitting in the bathroom on the toilet in sackcloth and I would still be of value.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
there are times when you as a single mom feel like that's no matter where you're working, no matter how it looks, you know, there are times when you feel like that. And
Yeah.
and you are making it look good because that's what we do. you know and then for the superwoman, for the black woman, a lot of times, as many of us unfortunately are winding up with all kinds of health issues,
Yeah.
we also then get celebrated for being the superwoman in the same breath as somebody saying, girl, you look like you need to lose 20 pounds. Or, girl, why are you walking like that? Why your feet hurting? What's wrong with your knees, your hips? What's wrong with,
Yeah.
what's going on? How long's it been since you got your hair did or whatever? But it was so great, the stuff that you did at church last week, or, at work. You were the one, you held it down. You did this, you did that,
Mm.
So
Yeah. One thing I
that is what
learned.
I would have. That's what I have to say about that. Thank you. Go ahead, military mom. I'm gonna throw it to you.
Look, I'm gonna stop talking in a minute here, though. But one thing that I've learned is that you never, ever, ever stop being a single mom. Never until the day you die, because
All
I'm gonna
right.
tell you, like my oldest son, he just went through a divorce a few years ago, and he's still having issues with this girl. And of course, who does he call? He calls me, and he called me yesterday, and today with some foolishness with this girl. And I just wanted to scream, but I just listened, and I'm just so tired of stuff being thrown at me, but who else are they going to call, So I just listened,
Mm.
and I gave the best advice that I thought I could give. And and luckily my other sister, she's in town, and we were at my house when he called, of course, yesterday and today, and he was on speakerphone, so she kind of took the reins, for about 10 or 15 minutes, and she talked with him. So I was just so happy that she was here, that someone else was here, you know, to listen
Yes.
to him and to give him advice, just to take some of the pressure off of me. That's when I was like, you know what? This is never going to end. I'm going to always be a single mom, but it's okay. It's okay.
But
It's
you know what? If
God's
if
plan.
I if I might say, military mama, even if you weren't single, that's just a good mama right there.
Yeah, I try. I try.
Yeah, absolutely,
I try.
absolutely. He would
Right.
he would call his mama
Yeah.
about that. If you were married, if you were still married to his dad, maybe he'd have a different kind of conversation with his father. But
Hmm.
I think that that's another thing too, is you know, uh, let's give you your flowers for being a great mom. Everybody here,
Yeah.
just
It's
we're
definitely
still
a hard.
standing. It's hard, and it doesn't for most of us, a lot of it doesn't look the way you thought it was going to look. I definitely feel
Hmm.
like that. It doesn't look the way I thought it was going to look,
Yeah.
but we still speak to each other.
Hmm.
I mean, there are people who don't,
Yeah.
you know.
Absolutely. Yep.
And so I'm
Yep.
and having, lost my parents, and knowing people who have lost their parents and different kinds of things, you know, after a while it's, like you mentioned that earlier. I like sometimes to just take a moment and put it in perspective
Yeah.
and be kind of like, whatever happened, whatever happens, whatever is happening in this moment, I do have some level of, whether there are challenges or not, there's still some level of peace in my heart because there's still the love that's there.
Mhm.
and that's all we really get.
Yeah. Yeah. I tell you, it's rough. Mm.
Yeah, well, you know what? Here's the thing. Now, see this design here, God gave me this. This I had it in a vision. I'm not interested in how people feel about that, but I saw it. And the purpose of these jewels is that is who we have become at this point. And we talk about, the diamond comes from the pressure. Well, so do all these other jewels. And
Yeah.
when I hear you all speak about your experience, all I can hear is just the resilience and the brilliance that is coming forth in your life. The fact that that little boy whose lunch you were packing now is talking to you about a divorce, and how how much honor and respect that is that he has for you, because there are many grown
Yeah.
men who are not going to go to mommy to ask about
Yep,
such situations. And
that's
even
right.
as you were talking, Lady T, in the Bible it talks about how, one plants and another waters. It was Paul and Apollos. I can't remember which one planted and which one watered, but it was God that caused the increase. Once you've done everything that you could do, for him to graduate with no debt,
Hmm.
you did
Hmm.
the utmost. Now the rest is between him and God. And that's for all of you. You've done such a marvelous job. Yes, giving maybe more than you should have at times, forgetting about you. That sometimes is what love does. But now that we're pouring the love back into ourselves, I just offer a word of love that is, you have done an amazing job. And now let this time, now that you are more mature, now that you're in another place, you're recognizing the things that you need more as a woman, as a human, as a soul, to pour that back into yourself. Get out there and travel, even, drive 2 hours, go to Delaware, go someplace where there's some water, go to Virginia Beach and sit and put your feet up and drive back home. Whatever is within your means, make it your getaway, make it your experience. And just as you all are talking about how God got you through, let God meet you there for this chapter as well, and to see
Yeah.
how you can be rewarded, whether that's the reward of seeing something that your child does, or if that's the reward of what's going to come straight from God to you, because what you all have done is honorable. I don't hear I hear being upset at what people have done, but I don't hear malice, I don't hear hate, I just hear experience. And I'm just saying what I'm receiving. But I think anyone who hears this hears experience. Is there anyone who has any parting words of wisdom? Thank you, Lady T and Military Mama. I'm telling you all are just such a wealth. I can listen to you all talk all day, but that's all of you. I can just listen to this because it's not entertainment. It's food for the soul. It's someone's real
Yeah.
experience, and I just
It is.
appreciate it. Is there anyone else that would like to add something that you would like to leave with younger women that are coming along, or it could be your contemporaries? Some words of encouragement or some words of wisdom. Any other ladies on the line that would like to add before we close out?
I would just like to add one thing. When you're raising children, try to keep in mind that when you're 6 years old, the most devastating thing that could happen to you, it pales in comparison to real life. If my daughter came to me, oh my goodness, my paper tore, my instinct would be, oh my God, that's not a problem. I got to pay bills. I got to go to work. My boss hates me. I'll just let them know that their issues are important to you. No matter it's important to them, it should be important to you.
Mm,
Yeah. And
thank
I
you.
learned to always, if you make a promise, make sure you keep it. Children will hold you to it forever and a day. I still got my kids saying stuff to me to this day that I said I would do and didn't do. And we just laugh about it at this point,
Oh.
But yeah. But and then I'm gonna close out after this. One thing that still bothers me to this day, though, is that I didn't choose the right man to be in my kids' life. My children don't know the love of a father. And that bothers me right to this day. And sometimes I think about that they don't know the love of a father. They never had the love of a father, of a man in their life. They never had that. And that bothers me right to this day. Yeah. But anyway, it's really past my bedtime. Y'all know I'm in the bed by 7.
So, just a quick question though, before you go night night, military. Before we all go night night. So, you believe that was your responsibility to
I kind
acquire a father figure for your children?
Well, you know what? I I kind of do, but thank God I was strong enough to do the job on my own. But my help me, well, I know the woman is supposed to be the help me, but yeah, I really think that it was important to have a 2-parent household. I really do, I do, and I think sometimes, especially with my daughter, she the men whom she choose, it's just horrible, you know at 38, her picker is off. I'm gonna say that, when it comes down to men. And even with my sons, and when they go through stuff with these girls and they never had a man to go and talk to, and yeah, I thought it was kind of my responsibility. I just, yeah, I hold blame for that, you know,
And
right, right, right to
I
this
just
day.
offer to you and to any mother, to any person, to give yourself mercy. I think that's a lot to put on yourself. We've spoken of the Lord. He's the father to the fatherless. The Bible says your maker is your husband. The Lord of hosts is his name. If you have not found that love interest that was permanent, then I think at a certain point you just have to trust that, hey, my kids are all right. I did the best that I could. And to be realistic about the expectations of yourself. And I know because you love your children, you want them to have the best. You want to give them everything. But some things it's up to God to give.
Yeah.
You can be a parent, but you
Hmm.
can't be God. It's up to God to give. So I would just offer that as a thought for you and just really seek God about holding on to that as your own responsibility or failure because you looked and you wanted love as much as anybody else. So I
Yes,
just
yes, yes, yes.
give yourself a big hug and some mercy for me, okay?
Okay. All right,
That's
pray us
all.
on out. Hey, look, pray us on out. It's 8:35 now. Pray us on out. Go ahead, say your closing prayer. Say your closing prayer before I get to talking again, because I could go on and on and on and on, because I got a story to tell.
I know,
Whole
and you
bunch
know
of them.
what?
Whole
Keep on
bunch of them.
coming back and telling it. Keep on coming back and telling it.
A whole
So,
bunch of stories to
I thank
tell.
you all. I thank you, amazing ladies, for joining me this evening. And please, continue to love yourself, to let your light so shine, to share your story, and to make sure that you just have the enjoyment and the success that you seek for yourself as well. And a big to all of you, congratulations. Congratulations on your career wins, your personal wins, your parenting wins. Congratulations. I am so proud of you all, and I just thank you for being with us. So, right now, I just want to just offer for everybody who has enjoyed this, like, subscribe, put your story in the comment thread. Let's have a chat. We can chat together. All right. Have a
Okay.
great one and God bless everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. Virtual hugs to all of you.